Esther found herself in a situation where the survival of an entire nation depended on her. She wasn't a warrior or a political leader, yet she became the one person who could stop an impending massacre. How did a seemingly ordinary woman end up risking everything to save her people? In this video, we're diving into Esther's incredible story, filled with courage, tough decisions, and a faith that led to unimaginable results. Stick with us, because this isn't just an ancient story. It's about purpose, boldness, and trusting God when everything is on the line. The book of Esther begins in the royal courts of Persia, where King Xerxes has just banished his queen Vashti for disobedience. The king decides to hold a beauty contest to find a new queen, and among the many women who came to the king, a young Jewish woman named Esther stands out. Esther 2:7 says, "And he brought up Hadassah," that is Esther, his uncle's daughter. "And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him." What was so special about Esther? While the world may have looked at her as just another young woman in the king's harem, God had a purpose for her life that was far beyond what she could have imagined. Esther didn't reveal her Jewish identity to anyone, following the instructions of her cousin Mordecai, who had raised her. But in a time of uncertainty, God's hand was already at work, guiding Esther toward her destiny. Esther's rise to power wasn't a result of luck or beauty. It was part of God's divine plan to use her for a purpose greater than she could ever understand. God often places us where we need to be, even when we don't see the bigger picture. Esther's journey teaches us that God is always working behind the scenes to accomplish His will, even in the most unexpected ways. As Esther settled into her new life as queen, a threat to the Jewish people emerged. A man named Haman, who held a high position in the king's court, was filled with rage against Mordecai, Esther's cousin, because Mordecai refused to bow to him. Esther 3:5 tells us, "And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath." Haman's anger grew, and in his rage he plotted not only to destroy Mordecai, but to annihilate all the Jews in Persia. Esther 3:6 reveals the extent of his hatred. "And he thought scorn to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had shewed him the people of Mordecai. Wherefore Haman sought to destroy all the Jews that were throughout the whole kingdom of Ahasuerus, even the people of Mordecai." When Mordecai learned of Haman's plot, he sent a message to Esther, urging her to intervene. Esther 4:8 says, "Also he gave him the copy of the writing of the decree that was given at Shushan to destroy them, to show it unto Esther, and to declare it unto her." Mordecai's message was clear. If Esther didn't act, the Jews would be doomed. But Esther was faced with an impossible decision. She knew that to approach the king without being summoned was a crime punishable by death. Yet Mordecai reminded her that perhaps she had been placed in the royal palace for such a time as this. Esther 4:14 says, "Who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Esther's decision was not an easy one. She was risking her life to save her people, but her faith in God gave her the strength to act. Esther 4:16 says, "Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish." Esther called for a 3-day fast, seeking God's strength and guidance. She knew that without His intervention, her efforts would be in vain. But her courage was rooted in something deeper than fear. It was in her trust that God had a plan, even in the most dangerous circumstances. When Esther finally approached the king, God's favor was evident. The king extended his scepter to her, signaling that she had found grace in his sight. Esther 5:2 says, "And it was so, when the king saw Esther the queen standing in the court, that she obtained favor in his sight." The king promised to give her anything she wanted, up to half the kingdom. This moment marks a pivotal point in the story, the moment when Esther took the first step of faith that would change the course of history. Her boldness wasn't just about defying the law, it was about trusting God's timing and protection. Esther didn't immediately ask the king for the Jews' salvation. Instead, she invited him and Haman to a banquet. Esther 5:4 shows her wisdom. "If it seem good unto the king, let the king and Haman come this day unto the banquet that I have prepared for him." This was a strategic move to prepare the king's heart and set the stage for what would come next. At the banquet, Esther invited the king to another feast, and it was there that she would reveal Haman's plot to destroy her people. But God's timing was perfect. The king was already troubled by an earlier event that would set the stage for Haman's downfall. That night, the king could not sleep, and he had the book of Chronicles read to him. He discovered that Mordecai had previously saved his life, and he decided to honor him. The next day, as Haman came to the king to request the execution of Mordecai, the king instead commanded Haman to honor Mordecai in front of the entire city. Esther 6:11 says, "Then took Haman the apparel and the horse, and arrayed Mordecai, and brought him on horseback through the street of the city, and proclaimed before him, Thus shall it be done unto the man whom the king delighteth to honor." The final banquet came, and with courage, Esther revealed her true identity to the king. Esther 7:3 says, "Then Esther the queen answered and said, If I have found favor in thy sight, O king, and if it please the king, let my life be given me at my petition and my people at my request." She revealed that she was a Jew, and that Haman's plot was aimed at her and her people. The king was furious and demanded to know who dared to threaten the queen's life. Esther pointed to Haman. Esther 7:6 says, "And Esther said, The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman." In a moment of shocking justice, Haman was executed, and his plot was destroyed. The king then issued a new decree, allowing the Jews to defend themselves against their enemies. Esther 8:17 tells us, "And in every province, and in every city, whithersoever the king's commandment and his decree came, the Jews had joy and gladness, a feast and a good day." Esther's courage, obedience, and faith saved her people, and her story became a testament to God's providence and divine timing. The Jews celebrated their deliverance with the Feast of Purim, which continues to be observed to this day. Esther 9:26 says, "Wherefore they called these days Purim after the name of Pur." Through Esther's story, we are reminded that God places us in positions for a reason, even when we don't see the full picture. He can use anyone, regardless of their circumstances, to accomplish His will. Esther's legacy teaches us that when we trust God and step out in faith, He can use us to accomplish great things. The story of Esther is one of divine timing, courage, and unwavering faith. Just as God used Esther to save the Jewish people, He can use each of us for His purposes in ways we may never fully understand. Like Esther, we are called to stand boldly for what is right, trust in God's plan, and have faith that He is always at work, even behind the scenes. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the book of Esther. If Esther's story has inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Bible Study Time for more in-depth Bible studies. Remember, just as Esther was chosen for such a time as this, God has a plan for you too.